Well, greetings once again, friends, as we chat from a slightly different environment today. Last time, I brought out the issue of the YOWADI program being an idea of freshness and how this freshness actually leads to emotional health and intelligence. Now, we brought out the fact that emotional health is about how we think and feel, it is about our sense of well being, okay, our ability to cope with life events, all right, and also how we acknowledge our own emotions as well as those of others. Now, there's the emotional health aspect, which affects the emotional intelligence, which is how we manage our own emotions as well as understand the emotions of those that we relate with. And so, if you're not emotionally healthy, you will not be emotionally intelligent. In other words, your emotional health affects your emotional intelligence. And so that's why all this, which falls under mental health, has to do with the mind. It has to do with how we think. It has to do with our attitude. Now, we've talked about freshness under the YOWADI program as something that has to do with renewal of the mind, change of our old attitude, inner healing, discovery of self-identity, and how all this leads to positive transformation and behavioral change. But we found out that this positive behavioral change is only achieved when there's a realization experience. Okay? And this is an experience where one actually finds out that they have a particular problem which needs to be dealt with. In other words, if one does not realize that they have a problem, they will not do anything about it. And so, realization is a very important aspect in positive behavioral change. And this only takes place from our research that we found out that one has to be exposed to an ideal environment over an adequate period of time, which actually is more of environmental conditioning when we talk of behavioral psychotherapy. So one has to undergo environmental conditioning under an ideal environment. In other words, if the environment is not appropriate or proper for their particular condition, it might either take too long for them to realize and therefore recover, or they may not realize or recover at all. So the issue of an ideal environment is very important in bringing about successful environmental conditioning, which eventually leads to what we refer to as natural mind setting and behavioral change. Now, natural mind setting in this case is talking about the nurturing aspect of someone or upbringing of someone. All right. And a lot of us, as mentioned last time, have backgrounds which have affected our personalities, behaviors, and characteristics, and hence the need for being remade or undergoing freshness, having a brand new start. And so those background effects are due to our upbringing and have had an effect on us, negative effect. And so for us to have a brand new start, we need to be re-nurtured, in other words. And this is where the natural mind setting aspect comes in under pharmacology. In other words, under the brain principle, we are saying let there be inner healing, renewal of the mind, and discovery of self-identity. And all this is under the nurturing aspect of natural mind setting. In other words, it's different from psychic manipulation, where one is forced to change and become whatever it is that a therapist wants them to be without them understanding. But in natural mind setting, we are saying let's create an environment, an ideal environment to which a client or a patient will respond naturally as who they are. And that natural mind setting will be something that will lead to positive transformation and behavioral change. Now, all this, as brought out under pharmacology, we are saying let there be an attitudinal guidance principle, that which will guide both the therapist as well as the client or patient. In other words, the attitudes of both the therapist who is actually relating with the client or the patient need to be worked on. In other words, these are people that are relating. So in a therapeutic process or in therapy, it's a relationship between the therapist and the client or patient. All right. And because these are human beings with bodies, souls, and spirits, we are talking of an interaction that has to take place. There has to be an exchange of ideas. There has to be positive interaction. All right. It's not just something that is forced on the client or patient, but it's a give and take kind of situation where the therapist has something to give to the client or patient, and the therapist also receives something through interaction. And so this interaction has to be positive. And these are the two basic aspects upon which the Femak brain principle is based: positive interaction as well as integration. And in integration, here we are talking about the bringing together or getting ideas from different principles in theology, psychology, and sociology. And this is where the theopsychosocial principle comes in, where there's integration of theology, psychology, and sociology. In other words, the therapist in this case gets ideas from all these various thoughts and brings them together during a therapeutic process in order to help a particular client or patient. All right. And so positive interaction and integration are two important pillars upon which the Femak brain principle is based. All right. And basically, effectiveness is what is brought about when this principle is applied during therapy. And so psychotherapy is an important aspect that needs to be promoted in order to bring about natural mind setting through positive interaction in an ideal environment. And so positive interaction itself is an ideal environment. It is positive interaction in the sense of having a good effect on all people that are associating with each other. All right. And so what we are saying is that let it be interactive. Let it be something that is natural. Let it be not be manipulative. Let it not be something that will be forced on someone. But let us create a positive environment, an ideal environment to which somebody will simply respond as who they are. And this simply agrees with the self-identity aspect that we are talking about, where we are saying let each one discover who they are and let them accept who they are and therefore begin to operate as who they are. And so today, what I'm bringing about as we continue talking about the idea of freshness under YOWADI is the importance of emotional health as a result of a positive environment that is created through interaction between the therapist and the client or the patient. And so let's work on and think about how we can create positive interaction through ideal environments as we move on and try to develop our self-identity in life. Thank you very much.